Hey everybody, this is Osama Dahud. This is the 4040 Vision podcast, the number one sports history podcast. And today I want to talk about boxing. Huge boxing fan. I think boxing had an amazing year in 2023. Want to get into uh, the great things that happened in 2023, a comparable year from my perspective, some of the money that's coming into boxing from Saudi Arabia, and expectations for 2024, and how I think it could be another year that could compete with the kind of year we had last year. So 2023 was awesome. We had a lot of big fights. You know, the one that I think everyone had been waiting for a long time. Clearly, Spence versus Crawford. Did the fight live up to expectations? Not really. It was, it was a beatdown. Spence completely dominated by Terrence Crawford, and it looks like there'll be a rematch for that fight at some point here in 2024. We wanted it, we got it. Wasn't the fight we expected, but the fact that we got it was, I think, a huge achievement for boxing altogether. Crawford being first time undisputed, pound for pound number one, an awesome achievement for him. And he doesn't have too many fights left, so I think we can only appreciate him while he's still active. Next up was Naoya Inoue, who, these two guys were neck and neck for fighter of the year, pound for pound, depending on who you ask, because Crawford only fought once. Inoue fought a few times, and he was dominant. He went undisputed twice as well, with Martin Tapales and Stephen Fulton, and it didn't even look like he was in any trouble. The Tapales fight was tough, but the Fulton was complete domination. Just an awesome fighter. He's like, modern day Manny Pacquiao, how he hits hard from different angles. He's got good boxing. His defense is pretty good. He's just an incredible fighter, and he likes to be active. He's a superstar in Tokyo. All of his fights have been in Tokyo for the most part, save for a couple during the pandemic in the US where he had some fights in Vegas. So Naoya Inoue, super excited for what he brings, and we'll get into expectations for him a little bit later. Uh, Tank Davis again, or Abdul Wahid, depending who you ask, against Ryan Garcia did unbelievable pay-per-view numbers. If you look at like a list of the top pay-per-views, it's like Mayweather Pacquiao, Mayweather McGregor, Khabib McGregor, maybe a couple others I'm forgetting. And this fight's like up there. It's in like the top 15 or so. It was okay fight. Like Tank Davis was incredible, but I think it was awesome that boxing was able to find a fight with arguably the face of boxing in Tank Davis, and a very popular fighter in Ryan Garcia, who I think is a level a level is saying is being nice, a couple levels below Tank Davis, and that was great. So looking forward to what those guys do this year. That was awesome for 2023. Devin Haney broke out. Say what you want about the Lomachenko fight. He lost the fight. The best he could have got was a draw against Lomachenko, but it'll always say in the history books that he beat Lomachenko. That was huge for him, defending undisputed, and then he dropped his undisputed titles, went up to 140. And I went to this fight here in the Bay Area. It dominated Regis Prograis, very impressive. And we'll see what Devin Haney brings up this year. But he looked great. That Lomachenko fight was competitive, even though Lomachenko landed the more cleaner punches and had Haney's defense all in a blender. Haney looked good this year, so we'll see. Um, if he's able to get more big fights this year. It's been kind of weird with the Ryan Garcia thing to start off the year, jumping between Rolly Romero and Devin Haney. I expect he'll still put on some good fights this year. Ben Rodriguez making pound for pound was quite an achievement. The way he dominated Sonny Edwards was a hard fought, what is it, 9-10 rounds, but huge for a guy at that weight to break into the top 10 pound for pound. And I believe they're trying to work a fight with him and Estrada. So, I mean, that's awesome that Matchroom is making those fights with him. Katie Taylor, Chantel Cameron fought two awesome fights last year, both in Ireland. Hats off to Chantel Cameron for going into Ireland and actually beating Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor's first loss in her career, I believe. I hope I'm not wrong there. And then they had the rematch, and Katie Taylor fought her heart out and won the belts back. So they're going to fight a third time. I'm looking forward to that trilogy. But awesome fights. Teofimo Lopez really showed out I think that there are a lot of questions about him after the Sandro Martin fight wasn't great, and then uh, he goes up to 140 against Josh Taylor, who's like no slouch. He won undisputed himself, and I was skeptical because of the size difference, but Teofimo showed out. He dominated Josh Taylor. That was crazy. He was wiggling around and lunging while throwing punches, and he looks like a top 10 guy again, like he did when he beat Lomachenko a few years ago. He's got some big fights. He's got Jermaine Ortiz coming up next month, in a few weeks at the time of this recording. Um, and it's hopefully he keeps putting on big fights. Like Jermaine Ortiz is a good, like, all right, this is a tough fight. Now can you go after the Devin Haney's of the world? He's talking about Bud Crawford, which is ambitious to say the least. Tio's interesting guy, great fighter. I'm being nice saying interesting guy, but yeah, a huge year for him. Archer Beterbiev, Anthony Yard was a war. Beterbiev's a monster. Jaime Munguia and Sergey Derevinchenko was one of those fights of the year. Luis Neri and Azat Hovasani, Hovhani-san. I'm Neri against Azat. Okay, it was a great fight. I should have practiced that shit. Great fight. Nakatani just destroying Andrew Maloney. Rafael Espinoza, that was crazy what he did against Robesi Ramirez, how he like rallied in the 12th round and threw more punches to seal the fight. That was awesome. I hope they run that back this year. We saw the end of Showtime, which was sad. Showtime put on a lot of big fights over I think it was like 37, 40 years, something like that. And we had the Day of Reckoning card, which will carry some weight here and what I talk about in this episode. Now, real quick, other, I would say, great calendar years of boxing. 2013, Floyd Canelo, Floyd Guerrero, Mikey Garcia, Orlando Salido, Danny Garcia, Lucas Matisse, Carl Frog fought Mikael Kessler and George Groves, Bernard Hopkins coming back as an older man and beating Trevoris Cloud, Bradley Provodnikov, great fight. Rios Alvarado 2, Pacquiao Rios, Mikey Garcia fought Zab Judo, Juan Manuel Lopez, and previously Matisse, Broner Maidana, Araceli Lara, Alfredo Angulo, and this was at least here in the Bay Area because Nonito Donaire is a local guy. This was a popular fight here against Guillermo Rigondeaux, and it was like fighting a stun gun. How he neutralized Donaire in that way. So 2013 was a crazy year of fighting, and 2023 was one of those years that really rivaled 2013 as like a banner year for boxing of just putting on really, really good fights. Transitioning seamlessly, Saudi money is in boxing. We've seen Saudi money go into some other places like the English Premier League. I'm just going to say the English Premier League because I blanked out. Oh, Lotus Motors, car company. But yeah, Saudi boxing. So Saudi Arabia has historically been an oil-dependent economy. Right now, the government's running a massive program called Vision 2030. It's a very ambitious program that's growth-driven to diversify the economy, increase foreign direct investment, which is important, and in many ways will increase global engagement in Saudi Arabia, which has been pretty like Muslim exclusive for a long time. So I think things like this it's an understandable strategy. You know, they've been hosting Barcelona and Real Madrid games, Formula One games. They had Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, one of those fights. I think they had Joshua Ruiz at one point. They had a concert. I think it was like Nicki Minaj or something like that. So they've been trying to bring other forms of entertainment to the country. To okay, come over here. We like to have fun here too. And you know, their neighbors, the United Arab Emirates, relaxed business rules. It was very say you wanted to like open a business in Dubai, you needed a lot. You had to go through a lot of loopholes. You had to have someone locally sign off on your business. They've relaxed those rules to make it a lot easier. So Saudi Arabia has clearly been following suit to do that, especially with the global economy transitioning to a lot of renewable energy. It's smart for them to diversify in this way. So, increasing their economic moat, all that good stuff, I think is very necessary. Enter His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. He's the chairman of entertainment for Saudi Arabia, and this is a guy who loves boxing. Uh, if a lot of us fans wanted to run boxing a certain way, this is how we would do it, where it's all about bringing the best fights. There's no ducking. There's no promotional BS or cross promotional BS. Who's the A side versus the B side? Who walks out first? Who walks out second? What's the split on revenue? The egos getting in the way, that's out the window. A side, B side, that's out the window. The money here brings promotions together seamlessly. Seamlessly. Like the Dmitry Bivol Artur Beterbiev was agreed, Bivol agreed before Beterbiev fought. So what they do is they go to each side individually, cut separate deals. Like Jay Opataya, I think, has his own 5-fight deal just to fight in Saudi Arabia. And they cut these deals separately, and everyone gets the money they want. How much do you want? Okay, is that it? That's what it's going to take? Okay, here you go. It's like a blank check for boxing, which is something boxing's been missing. You look at that Artur Beterbiev Dmitry Bivol fight's a prime example of, like, based on the money these guys want, we don't think as promoters that we can get the money that this fight expects, like what the fighters expect, and obviously like the classification of those two guys. But that's how boxing is. It's like, I don't think we can get that fight to where we want it to be. But here we go with Turki Al-Sheikh saying, "I'll make this fight happen. If everybody wins their fights, I'll make it happen." It's pay-per-view agnostic. It's like, who cares? We'll pay for it. And you saw Day of Reckoning. The fight was like $40. And you could say as a drawback that maybe the U.S. is not having fights here, but if they're not making the fights at all, who the hell cares? It's going to change the game. The best can fight the best, and no bullshit. And I think that it opens the door for a lot of interesting ideas. We've already seen Turki Al-Sheikh say Matchroom Promotions against Queensberry Promotions. Is that going to deliver? We don't know, but I like the creativity. I respect the ambition on trying to make things like this happen. We haven't had a tournament in a long time. Could we see, dare I say, a 140-pound tournament like we had with the super middleweight tournament tournament a few years ago? So I think that there's a lot of opportunity here. And I think that Saudi Arabia, with the investment they have, this blank checkbook that they're willing to put into boxing, I think it's really going to change the way boxing works. And what happens to the U.S. market, I don't think really matters that much. You know, maybe here you could say that Saudi Arabia says, all right, we'll make a fight in the U.S. if X, Y, and Z. Or I think one of the things that's been tricky with the Saudi Arabia fights is they come on in the morning here in the West Coast, kind of in the afternoon in the East Coast, and they could run for most of the day. That Day of Reckoning card was like an NFL uninterrupted day of red zone. It ran from like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Took up my whole day. It was fun, those fights. But that's asking a lot of your audience ultimately. So maybe they start doing some of these fights in the middle of the day there. It's really hot there though, so I could understand the idea of having them at night there, morning here. I don't know. We're not going to have any say in it. But either way, they're making the fights happen, excuse me, that we couldn't make happen here in the US very quickly. Like Bivol Beterbiev, a huge example. Fury Usyk is happening. That was a fight that was like, where are we going to get the money for this? Because it's a boxer versus a boxer. None of that shit matters. They are going to put on the best fights. So here's what I'm expecting for 2024. I think that there's opportunity with the kind of year boxing had. I think that, Oscar De La Hoya has been very vocal about bringing promoters together. It would not be amazing if all the dependency was on just Saudi Arabia. PBC has the Amazon deal that's going to have 12 to 14 fights a year. Matchroom runs a ton of cards every year. Top Rank always puts on fights, whether they're in Saudi Arabia or here. So Uh, well, here's what I'm expecting. I think Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk. I'm expecting that to be a good fight for undisputed heavyweight. There hasn't been an undisputed heavyweight in the four belt era, I believe. Lennox Lewis was the last undisputed heavyweight champ over 25 years ago. I'm hoping that Canelo Alvarez fights David Benavidez. Hoping for it because I feel like Canelo's been this guy's been in his crosshairs for a while. Benavidez wants to fight the Mexican monster. He's mean. He's freaking huge. He hits hard. He bullies his opponents. Like what he did to Caleb Plant and Bubo Andrade was crazy. And I hope Canelo wants to smoke. Canelo hasn't been shy in the past. He fought Triple G twice, three times, something that no one else can say. So I hope that fight happens. If it doesn't happen this May, the rumors are it'll happen. Canelo does the Cinco de Mayo and then like somewhere close to Mexico Independence Day. So hopefully, if it doesn't make the May card, it makes the September card. I think Terrence Crawford's going to fight Errol Spence again. I was a little skeptical of that. I thought Crawford might maybe fight one more time because there's kind of just been this lull when PBC signs this Amazon deal, and they're both back in the gym. Crawford is doing some jump rope a few days ago, singing "Change Gonna Come." So I hope they run it back and it's a better fight. Did the first fight? Does it make you want to jump out of your chair like it did uh, when you heard the first fight was announced? Right now, no. But we'll see if it is it at 154. What kind of Spence shows up, etc. We'll see. Love to see Naoya Inoue fight a few more times this year. He's fighting Luis Nery in May. Love this guy that he's willing to push himself and take on big, exciting fights. They're all in Tokyo. Super understandable that they're in Tokyo. He's a megastar there. They'll fill up arenas. They're fighting at the Tokyo Dome, which fills up like 50,000 plus. So I get it. As long as people are willing to go there, everybody gets paid because he's popular there. It makes sense. It's why some guys will like host fights in the UK or in Australia. I'd love for him to fight here again. It was kind of weird because he fought during the pandemic in like these empty arenas with like nobody in there. It wasn't the best time. I imagine they made those fights in advance, and he had a plan to fight here in the States. But hopefully he comes back. A lot of fighters travel to and fought outside of the U.S., for example. Like Muhammad Ali fought in like the Philippines. He fought in Africa. He fought in the UK. So a lot of fighters do love to travel. They don't have to. It'd just be nice so I can go see him. I don't know if I'm going to go to Tokyo, but I'd love to go see him here in Vegas or something like that. Cowboy Stadium, you know. I think there's going to be 3 to 4 more big cards in Saudi Arabia. We already have AJ against Ngannou. Whether that delivers or not remains to be seen, but I'm hoping that does. There's going to be the Queensberry Matchroom cross promotion tournament. That's cool. We're going to have better be of Bivol. So I'm expecting at least one more big card. Maybe it's Haney, Tank Davis, Haney. Who gives a shit what order it's in? But that could be a Saudi fight. It doesn't have to be. That's, I think, big enough to happen here if both guys win their next fight. Uh, but I'm hoping that, you know, Saudi keeps putting on these big cards. I'm predicting that a tournament will be announced. Um, I hope it's at 140. I don't know if it'll happen, but 140 just has this murder row of guys all in their prime. But I think if it's not 140, we'll see it somewhere else, like maybe like with the lighter weight class, or maybe the heavyweight weight classes. Because if Tyson Fury or Usyk go undisputed, there's a rematch clause. We'll see how AJ shakes out against Ngannou, and then Joseph Parker is fighting Zhili Zhang. Fireworks, by the way. Um, so yeah, I think a tournament would be fantastic to see those back in boxing. Um, uh, Teofimo fighting Haney was something I put on here. I know I talked about Davis, but I think that's also one that's been brewing for years. Those guys have been back and forth for a while. I think everyone's been back and forth with Teofimo, but that would be a huge fight in terms of skill level. Excited for Cameron Taylor 3. Shakur Stevenson redemption. I'm expecting that. I think he's going to have to make us forget about the De Los Santos fight. Um, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's a great fighter. I'm sure he wasn't something wasn't right, or maybe there's something he saw in De Los Santos where he's like, I'm gonna fight this a very certain way, and maybe his speed is too much. We don't know, but it just didn't look good. It was a boring fight, so I think he'll come back this year and make us forget about it and be back in that conversation of really really exciting, uh, young talent. At what is he at 135 now? So we'll see. Um, Less ducking overall. I'd like to see less ducking. I think boxing ratings will go up. The first card on PBC is coming out. Keith Thurman against Tim Tszyu, and then Rolly Romero, Isaac Cruz. It's not a super strong card. On the optimistic side, I think that's by design. It's just like a test. Like, let's see how we promote the event. Let's see how the execution of it, everywhere, the promotion, how the pay-per-view runs, what numbers the pay-per-view does, how well does the production look, the stream, all that shit, I think, is more so a test for this. Being on pay-per-view, it's not great. I'm a boxing addict. I'll buy the fight. It's fine. But they have several other cards that are planned for this year. Gervonta Davis, Abdul Wahid in the summer, Canelo Alvarez in May. They're going to be some fights that are free too throughout the year. So I'm hoping that plays a huge part in it. Yeah, I hope it's all about the fights, is what I'm trying to say, is that 2023 was a fantastic year. And I think 2024 has a lot of promise to be another big year in boxing. Tell me what you all think. Comment in the section below. Like, subscribe. I made some mistakes here. Forgive me. It's been a while since I did a podcast, but I do appreciate it. I'll have more boxing content this year. MMA, we do a lot of cool stuff here on 4040. We do historical lookbacks, like top 5 what ifs, hypotheticals of a franchise. We do top 5 moments. We do a lot of interviews with interesting folks around all kinds of world of sports. Like, we've talked to Mohsen Kaysen, who's a boxer. We've talked to Mujtaba Al-Juda, who works for the Golden State Warriors. We've talked to Mushing Magazine. Like, you want to talk about dog sledding? We got that shit. We got Dave Zirin, who's one of the best writers in America. So check it out. We have a lot. A lot of it's evergreen. I had to talk about this just because boxing just had such a big year. I cheated by throwing in the 2013 part, but I think the overall, with the Saudi money in boxing, there's just a lot of cool shit that's going to happen this year. So thanks again. You'll hear from me again soon, and I'm out. See you.